Hello, beloved church family of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Paul Pursuti, and I will be your host tonight. I welcome you to our midweek oasis, our Wednesday night service. As you'll be able to experience tonight, our Wednesday night oasis is a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, sharing in a satsang style, expressing science of mind principles and practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and interactive. So let me remind you of what our themes are. Our annual theme for 2023 is Living Out Loud. Our monthly theme for September is Love Out Loud. Last Sunday, Reverend D. Jacqueline Edwards introduced ideas inspired by the talk title of Love on a Spectrum. And tonight, our speaker will continue the exploration of this same topic. So as we gather tonight, I really want to welcome you. Early in her ministry with us, Reverend Sunshine Michelle invited us to come to the center well. To do so, she shared these 6 C's for us to consider and incorporate. Come with a heart of love and tenderness. She calls that compassion. Come ready to exchange openly, communication. Come in friendship and family. We'll call that camaraderie. Come in harmony and ready to share, communion. Come in partnership and cooperation, collaboration. And finally, come in spiritual awareness and truth. Reverend Sunshine calls that consciousness. So as we move into the program tonight, these 6 C's are the premise of sharing a wonderful evening with you tonight. Now, if you are new to our community, joining us here tonight or watching us on YouTube, please visit our homepage, www.oaklandcsl.org, and click on the I'm New icon, and look at the lower left-hand corner of that page to submit your email address. Once you do, you'll begin receiving the Village News newsletter once a week in your email. It has all of the information on what is happening at the center in the coming weeks. So before we get started, please mute your own audio microphone right now during tonight's service. When you mute your audio microphone, it will improve the quality of our recording and tonight's transmission. Also, please stay tuned through the end of the service to receive special and important announcements. As we move forward here, it's my great honor to introduce our speaker tonight. She's our own senior minister and spiritual director, Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman. What an honor it is to have her on a Wednesday night. We get her on Sundays, but to have her in person and personal with us on a Wednesday night is really wonderful. As we do with every organized event at the center, we open with prayer. So Reverend Sunshine, will you be doing the honors this evening?
Thank you so much, Paul. I have asked our practitioner, Alice Knudsen, if she would pray us in, and she said yes.
Yay.
So she's going to do it.
Okay, so everyone just take a nice deep cleansing breath in and out. And in the stillness where we are right here and right now, come with me and enter into the cave of the heart, where spirit lives and breathes us. For there is only one life, one beautiful, magnificent life, and that life is the life of God. And that life is my life right here and right now. For God is everywhere present, back of everything. God is love, complete, unconditional love, manifest in absolutely everything throughout the entire universe, the sun, the moon, the stars, just guiding our lives, blessing us constantly. And how good it is. What a blessing it is to know that God is all there is. And I know with full conviction that God resides within me as me, and that God resides within everyone here as themselves, and everyone within the sound of my voice and not within the sound of my voice. And so I bless this time together, this sacred time together, where we come together to join and to open our hearts and share our spirits, to learn and to grow. And I bless our beautiful Reverend Sunshine, Michelle Coleman, as she leads us tonight. And what sweet surprises await us. And I know everything will go perfectly. Spirit guiding us always does everything perfectly. And we are so blessed. And how good it is to be together tonight. And please join me in saying, and so it is.
And so it is. Thanks so much, Alice. Just beautiful. Greetings, everyone, and happy Wednesday. I'm so delighted to be here with you, and I honor our ancestors, and I honor the indigenous original people on the lands that we're on here in the Bay Area. They're the Ohlone people, the Huichin territory. And I just breathe in the knowingness and the oneness of God on the heels of that prayer, giving thanks for our guardians and our protections and for all those who steward over us and watch out for us. So as Paul mentioned, tonight we're talking about love on a spectrum. And I'm excited to talk to you about this topic tonight, having just come from vacation in British Columbia, in Vancouver, a place called White Rock, where I was invited to speak at the Center for Spiritual Living, White Rock, on this very topic. And what I started with, and I'm going to give you some snippets of my talk and then open it up for us to engage, is that I have somehow during the pandemic, I'm going to blame it on the pandemic, fallen in love with some of these reality shows. I said I'd never do it, but I did. And somehow my interest has fallen on some of these shows where folks fall, they're reality shows where folks fall in love, whether it's blindly, they've never met the person, but they end up engaged to them and going to marry them, or you come to a show where you give your partner an ultimatum, either we're going to leave engaged or I'm leaving with somebody else or by myself. So it's interesting that I had already engaged in those shows. Ironically enough, when I was in British Columbia just the other day, before the talk, I, after having had a busy day, I laid down where I was and flipped on the TV, and guess what I saw? A show that I hadn't seen before, called Love on a Spectrum. I was thinking about this topic already, and I was like, what? So I started watching it, and it was a beautiful show about people with autism finding love partners. And I had already watched the show called Down for Love, which was about people with Down syndrome wanting partners, love relationships, and finding those. So I thought it was really interesting that I was going to be talking about love on a spectrum, which we know and use to refer to the spectrum as autism. It got me thinking, though. I thought of an aunt who now is an ancestor on the other side, but I was well familiar with her, Aunt Evelyn, who was mentally and physically disabled and challenged in a lot of ways from birth. And the doctors said that she wouldn't live past 20. But when she died, probably about 8 years ago, she was 60. So, all things are possible in God, right? You never know how that's going to go. But I was just kind of thinking of this show, Love on a Spectrum and Down for Love, that I've described to you, and thinking about Aunt Evelyn. And I know in my grandmother's era, as she was raising Aunt Evelyn, and who lived with her whole life, she would have never allowed her to even try to get into a love relationship. Now, maybe it wouldn't have been for her, but I vaguely remember her even commenting about she wanted a baby. But of course she would want a baby, right? I mean, it's just a human emotion that some people have. But we have, as a human species, categorized, either intentionally or subconsciously, what is normal. So we've normalized ableism, where you have full use of your body in the ways that we know. We've normalized what normal is. But who's to say what normal is? If we truly believe that God is all there is and there is nothing else, and that God is love, then that means everyone, whether they have no limbs or not, or no matter what their physicality or their mentality, it doesn't matter, that they are normal. So this idea of normal just really struck me by watching this show, Love on a Spectrum. And it was interesting because the people that they featured and that would go on these dates similarly had autism or Down syndrome, or there's even a show about little people, and so of course we want to be in affinity, not of course, we don't have to, but everyone wants to be around people who know and understand them, or that they don't have to explain themselves, or they're accepted unconditionally. Last time I spoke at OCSL a week from Sunday, I was talking about the different kinds of love, and there's 8 different kinds of love, right? And one of them is unconditional love. And do we really, as a people, accept people unconditionally? So I'm pausing just so that we can get that in our spirit and just see what that feels like. And how do we, I challenge us, it's like, how do we even eradicate that space of what normal is, so that there isn't anything that's different? I refrain from using the term different or difference in the spectrum of diversity and inclusion. I haven't liked that word for some years because it has a tendency to other people when they're different. We're all different. Even if we look the same, we're still different. Don't we say that every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every leaf on a tree, we say that it's different, it's unique, it's special, even if it looks identical. There's nothing that's identical, although we share things in common. So this, to me, is love on a spectrum. It's not only about, it's about autism, certainly, but it's also about how we show up in life and where we fit on the spectrum of life. Y'all have heard me say I love looking up words. If I'm going to use them, not to say that the dictionary has the full rights on a word, but they do have definitions, right? So I go to the dictionary a lot to get ideas about how things are worded. Here's what it says about spectrum: a broad range of varied but related ideas or objects, the individual's features of which tend to overlap so as to form a continuous series or sequence. Spectrum. You've heard me talk about the continuum. I often draw it in the sky, right? If we have it, and there's extremes. You can have a continuum extreme over here if it's to the far left or to the far right. What we want to do is be somewhere in the middle if we can, so that there's balance. We want to create balance in life. I found this beautiful quote by Elizabeth Lesser, and here's what it says. Your soul here on earth is uniquely yours. It is different from my soul, although eventually all streams lead back to the great ocean. Some people call that ocean God. Some call it spirit. Some don't call it anything. They just experience it as a vastness or a question mark or an abiding sense of love and light. In the vastness are distinctions and differences, melt into oneness. But while we are here, we are meant to express the uniqueness of who we are. I love that. Y'all have heard me talk about authenticity and authentic self-expression, and it's one of my favorite qualities because we're all here by divine appointment. That means for however long we're here and for whatever that looks like, it's a matter of accepting that for ourselves. Again, whether we have limbs or not, or whether we're tall or short or heavy or thin or what, in whatever color we may be or whatever orientation we may be, we're unique. That's the word I like instead of different. We are unique and we are here for a reason. I'm thinking now of the Special Olympics. Those are folks who have used what I'm talking about. They have been brought here and they overcome some of these obstacles in their physicality to go ahead and compete in sports and in Olympics and what have you. It's just beautiful to see people overcome the odds that they were dealt perhaps at birth, but also what identities people assign to them. While I was in White Rock, I was hosted by a friend of mine. We were in our doctoral program together. Actually, it was a little bit of a reunion because two of my colleagues are there in White Rock, so I got to see them both, and it was so special. It was really lovely, and I got to invite them to hear me speak. So I got to introduce them to the CSL community there, and they were exchanging cards, and it was just lovely to see. My host, my friend, has done this beautiful work that she did before the doctoral program, but she did her research and she wrote it in her dissertation and then afterwards opened a nonprofit. I just want to tell you the story about it because it's love on a spectrum. And she has a passion and affinity for a real soft spot for working with immigrant refugee women. And she has brought many a family to Canada from these war-torn countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan and parts of Africa and different places. And even in her doctoral research, the group that she was working with there, through the work, she helped give them agency for themselves and helped them to learn English and to take care of their family and even to bring families from the countries that they had to leave their families behind and bring them here. And so much so that some of these women have gotten into changing local legislation and policy and making it better for immigrants and for refugees. It's just been such beautiful work to behold. So I asked her, I said, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to see some of your groups? I've even guest lectured for her in some of the classes that she hosts via video. So I was excited to be there in her area. Well, here's the story that I have, that she ended up, there's apparently, Constance, you would know this, probably being from British Columbia, and y'all have heard of this, I'm sure, that there is a housing shortage in Vancouver. There's a lot of building going on, but it's for people who can afford it. Excuse me. So they have this housing crisis or shortage that's happening. And so this foundation that brings these families from these war-torn countries, you know, they support them from soup to nuts. That means giving them a place to live and helping support them in their work and in all these things. Well, this family of four, two parents, two teenage young women, were there as they got there a couple of days before I did. And there was no place for it to put them up in. So my friend, who has this huge home, housed them. She has a 3-story home, so they had the top floor, I had the middle floor, and the bottom floor was common quarters. And talk about love on a spectrum. Talk about love and experiencing love. I experienced it the whole week that I was there, from so many dimensions and angles, just by meeting some of the people that my friend Andrea, Dr. Andrea, engages with. She was the host, right? She and her husband of this family of four. And I witnessed her love and taking care of them. She was constantly on email, registering the young women for school, English classes, putting together a resume for the father to get work. She was constantly doing things. This is a show of love. The way they were taking care of them. I witnessed love from the parents and the children, from this family who are educated and and skilled and sweet, compassionate people. So you know me, y'all know me. I'm a hugger and I love everybody up. So we were all loving each other up the whole time I was there. And we were all doing that, and they were cooking, traditional Afghani food and beautiful foods and things, and we were all taking care of each other. The parents were taking care of their kids, the kids were taking care of their parents. My friend has an adult child who is living with cancer. And she lives on the island, Victoria Island. So she came in. I know her too. I haven't met her in person ever, but I've met her on video. And so she came in to meet them and to meet me. And we were all loving up on each other. I watched her parents, my friends, love up on their child, who's, making the best of a terrible situation since she was a child. I'm watching her love up on her parents and be concerned for them. I was watching the CSL community just suck up my friends, that I brought. I had several friends that I brought, and vice versa. My friends were happy with the CSL community, and everybody treated me like a celebrity. Like they, really, it was quite something. Then my friend, Dr. Andrea, also has a passion for, she's so talented. She has so many skills or what have you. She has this passion for taking care of seniors, right? Elders. And so she likes to, from other countries, because she deals with refugees and immigrants. So she likes teaching them English. Well, the way she is able to teach them English well, she's a musician, she plays the piano, is she started a seniors choir. I knew that when I was here. But it was so successful that she started writing productions for them, and then they'd perform them in the theaters, and people this choir is quite popular. So I got to meet with the senior choir. We even went on a field trip while I was there. Coincidentally, I came at the right time, and they're in preparation for a production. we went to, Constance, you would know this one, Lake. Alouette Lake, beautiful, beautiful area with forests and trees and a beautiful lake and mountains. And it was just lovely. You had about 40 seniors who came on a bus, on a school bus, and Andrea and I came separately. And from China and Ukraine and Afghanistan and Japan, and they were all from different countries. And talk about love. They were speaking, even if they didn't speak the same language, they've learned to speak the language of love. So it was so wonderful to behold this. When we were out there, I was out there with these seniors. They were playing games and we were laughing and they were singing and we were hiking. And I mean, it was so much fun. You get the picture. It was all about love and there wasn't any difference. I mean, everyone's unique and different, but it was all about, we were all normal. It was no abnormal. It wasn't about being on a spectrum other than the spectrum of love. And one of the days, we went to Stanley Park, this huge, huge, huge regional park. Again, with a beautiful body, it dovetailed into the Pacific Ocean, but there's mountains everywhere and hiking and any kind of hiking or scooters or whatever people could do, they were out and about doing it. It was just a lovely area. And there was a moment in our group of 7, there were 7 of us, this Afghan family and my 2 hosts and me, where we were spread out, right? Walking along this shoreline. And I was thinking about love. I was beginning to, zone into my topic. And there was that moment where I was giving love to that body of water. I was giving love to the mountains. I was giving love to the trees that I was seeing, and I was receiving it back. It was this love that was circulating. You can feel it, right? I mean, if you intentionally give love and shift your energetic, I was talking on the pulpit. Last time I was on the pulpit, I was telling y'all about, for those of you who were there, I had this irritation with somebody. I'm still irritated, but I'm working on it, right? And I was thinking, if I'm going to be suggesting that you all allow the transformation of love to happen, then I got to look at it too. So how do I give love in those places that's hard? But this goes back to what Jesus said is love your enemies, even those who would despitefully use you. How do you do that? If someone really hurts your feelings or someone does you wrong or what have you, like this irritant that I'm dealing with, how can I allow love to transform that? I believe that is what we're here to do. Those of us who know this science of mind philosophy and other philosophies, it doesn't just have to be science of mind, it could be the language of love. Those of us who know that there is something bigger and greater than we are, that we can tap into it because it is us. It's in our very essence, in our bones. We can't help but tap into it if we give it our attention. We have to turn to it. It's all about choice. So how do we do that and allow love to be the divine multiplier? How do we, and once we do that, I believe there's gratitude and compassion that comes out of it, and friendship and forgiveness. There's intentional love of all types that, that we've been talking about that happens when we can lean into love. Lean into it on the spectrum of love. And that includes anyone with autism or Down syndrome or any disabilities or whatever uniquenesses that we all have. It's simply our divine signature in God. Who's to say that the way we were created isn't the best blessing ever. It may be something that's challenging, like my friend's daughter who was born with, I don't know that she was born with cancer, I'm sorry, but she had it as a child and she struggled with it. She's in her 30s now. But don't you know, she went and started a company that created active wear made of bamboo that is good for the skin based on how everything was irritating her skin because she wanted to make it better for somebody else. Isn't that like, we would say, I can't even say turning lemons into lemonade. It's like turning your situation and using the best of it to what is the lessons learned, as I always talk to us about. What are we learning from this thing? Maybe we feel like we've had a hand that has been dealt to us that feels unfair or whatever. But when we can get past that, there's love in there somewhere. We simply turn to love no matter how complex or how simple something may be. I always say that there's complexity in simplicity, and there's simplicity in complexity. Something that seems so simple might be so complex, and something that seems so complicated could just be real simple if we looked at it like that. So I just had such a lovely time on so many levels because it was all about love. I was able to surrender myself in a different way that was kind of unexpected because I didn't expect that this family of 4 was going to be there. And I didn't expect that they would, in their broken English, the night before I was ready to leave, would say, "We're going to miss you, sunshine," and hug me so tight. They're girls. I mean, and there was one moment where the mother came down to the kitchen, and I'll end with this and open it up because I have a question for you to pose to you. She came down and she was feeling tender and teary, and her English is really broken. She struggled to convey what she was feeling. Basically, she said, she called her host ma'am. Ma'am, I'm so happy to be here and I thank you so much, she said. But my heart is back in my country, she said. My heart is with my family there. Like, she has a daughter there. They have 3 children. So 2 of her children are with her. Can you imagine that one of them isn't? And she was thinking about her sister. Her siblings are there, and the sister's son, right? This woman's nephew. And basically she was trying to describe that he's malnourished because they can't afford to buy anything. They can't to eat. And even before this family of 4 got to Canada, they were in a one room for a long period of time, like a month or 2, with no windows, waiting to get out. So her heart, she was saying, was there with her family, even though she was glad to be here. So my point to telling you this is she was teary and she was crying and she had to pause. And I got up from where I was and I went over it, crying myself. And we just hugged. And I said, I cry with you. It was just so touching. I can't even imagine. The joy and the pain, talk about the continuum in the spectrum of being grateful to be safe with your husband and your kids, 2 of your kids, but being so torn because the rest of your family is elsewhere. So love, I bring it back to love because love, I believe, heals all. If we really believe that, here is my question for us to ponder in breakout groups. I'm going to put the question in the chat, but I want to give you just a moment. First of all, let's just breathe. breathe with me. I know that's a tender story. I know that hit me right here in my heart when I told it to you, and it may have hit some of you too. So let's just open up our heart space with love, because that's what's going to heal this. And I want you to think of a situation that either you're currently or recently have experienced that could use a special amount of your love. I gave you an example. I have an irritation that I'm still working with. It makes me want to fuss and cuss. Still, I've calmed down from it, but I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes with it. How can I, this is an example, how can I apply love to that situation? I want you to think of something that you could apply more love to, either some love or more love or something that you want to transform, or maybe that you hadn't thought of yet that you need to transform, but you want to. Just take a quick moment to grab something. And now, Peter, I'm going to have you put us into groups of 3. And you're going to have 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. So manage your time, maybe 3 minutes apiece, to talk about what it is you think you can do in that situation to apply more love.
Okay, here we go. Oh,
All right, everybody, we're getting close to the end. Paul, I might go over just 2 minutes because I want to hear from each group. I heard we have 3 groups. Peter and I and Alice were in one group.
Well, let me check with the senior minister and ask her permission if we can go over. All in favor? Okay, done.
Not over 8 o'clock, but over my little time.
It's
So,
your show.
I want to thank you, Paul. I hope you enjoyed that time, and I want to hear from each group. So let me hear from whoever starts talking. That's your group.
She's on a time mission, so come forward, folks.
We were the heavy heart group.
Heavy heart.
Heavy heart. All of us have are dealing with stuff that we've been resisting feeling, and yet it really is about heart, because until we give ourselves permission and feel it, we can't go anywhere. So I would say, would you agree, Sri Devi, and that we were the heavy heart group? Yes. So and so it was interesting, as there are no accidents, that the 3 of us ended up in a group together.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for your honesty. And I would just say to all 3 of you, and to everybody, but especially to the heavy heart group, is to let that inform you and to be gentle with yourself and just work on that in your spiritual practice, applying love to that thing. Just go a little bit at a time, perhaps. But yeah, thank you, Constance. Who else? Next group. I want to hear from each group.
I'm gonna go next. My group was the communication group. We used communication to understand what did you call it, hard thing is? And Grady had one, and I had one, and Freya had one. And through our sharing, we offered each other somewhat our way of recognizing the uniqueness of love in those situations. And through that communication, I think we were able to understand a little bit better. And I felt a lot of resolution for my situation. Freya, please chime in, Freya. You felt resolution, and Grady, you're always the anchor wherever I go, so you can tell Sunshine what you thought. Her suggestion was pray for the predator, basically. And I've never heard of that. So through that communication, I got a new understanding.
Oh, I love that. Pray for the predator. Oh my goodness.
Brady, you agree?
That's deep. I'm gonna go to that next group, the last group. Let me hear from the last group. Come on, y'all. Somebody that wasn't in Paul's group and wasn't in Constance's group, please speak up.
Okay, I'll say something.
Thank
I was
you.
about to say, thank you.
So I talked myself about my challenge with politics
Ah.
and how I can get really judgmental and how I have to look at that and I have to let it go. And I have to, if I'm talking about being a practitioner and being loving and doing all my spiritual practices, I don't get to bow out in the things that are the most challenging. I have to face it. And so I think all of us had a challenging situation. The other two of us were talking about work situations that are just really hard. And if either of you two want to jump in, go right ahead.
So for me, it's like what came out of our group was this revelation. It's this thing of that love starts with self. Because as we love, for me, as I love myself, then I would have a different situation of how I handle my coworkers, how I interact with them, because I realize when I'm in a place of frustration, it comes out that way. And if I'm not honoring myself and taking care of myself and loving me, then sometimes they get what I'm feeling. So I have to take a step back and love myself before I say something to someone else.
Oh, I love that.
Mm.
That is really good, Rev Deb. And, I think let's not be so hard on ourselves.
Yes.
We don't have to know it all and we can start over again. It's really okay if we falter or if we, find that we're being hard on ourselves. We can pause and stop and then shine the light on ourselves and give ourselves some love, to be tender and say, oh, this is giving me information about how I need to heal.
Mhm.
Let me address that. And then we can, take the next step and the next step. So I invite us all to take this into our spiritual practice and simply begin applying more love especially to these hard situations, because it's easier for us to do it to those things that are easier, right? Love is so sweet and it's so kind and everything. But how do we pray for the predator?
Mm.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to wish everybody, this is my new year, starting on Friday night. It is
Oh.
Rosh Hashanah. And so it's a time for examining and getting ready for the next year, which comes after Yom Kippur. And it is about love, but it is about loving myself, no matter what has taken place in the previous year. And it's a tender time of year. It's not fun and games and parties. So yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody and wish you Lishana Tova.
Thank you so
New Year.
much, Judith. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
honoring the high holy days. Okay, Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you, everybody, for your engagement and your attention.
Right. So let's all go to gallery view so we can all see each other for a minute and see what love in action really looks like. There's many different aspects,
Woo.
right? We
Mhm.
learned tonight many aspects of love. So one way we can show that is show our appreciation to our senior minister and spiritual director for coming forward on a Wednesday to be with us and sharing this wonderful gift. So thank you
Right.
so much, Reverend Sunshine. We
Right,
really
right.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
So
And
let's go into announcements, Peter, and share some wonderful things that's coming up and going on and have happened, and lean our love into what's going on at this center. Lean in with love. So this Sunday, September 17th, practitioner and ministerial student Lucian Baker is speaking on Love Thy Neighbor. Meditation is at 10 and service is at 10:30. Then on Wednesday, September 20th, Reverend Jerry's going to be the speaker, and she will continue that discussion on Love Thy Neighbor. Next Wednesday at 6:30 is meditation, and services at 7, and Wednesday nights are always in Zoom. Now, I need a little minute to talk about the next thing. Sridevi is here, and I've been given a script that I want to read, because if this doesn't talk about love and leaning into love, and it ties right in with the message from Reverend Sunshine, it's almost no accident. But Diversity Circle is only a week, a little bit more plus away, and this is the one you want to attend. It's about Tibetan refugees Tashi Kunjo and friends, and they will present on Tibetan refugees inside stories. Tibet streaming with prayer flags at the roof of the world has captured the imagination of more than one movie producer. Roof of the World is the name of the film, I believe. On one hand, Tibet is a land of rich cultural and religious traditions grounded in the all is one love. But on the other hand, it is a land of overbearing political oppression where the official narrative is told through the Chinese communist regime. While you may know that the Dalai Lama was exiled from Tibet, did you know that of the 3,000 plus Tibetans living right here in the East Bay, many, if not most, have been refugees living in India, Nepal, and elsewhere much of their lives. So come, hear their stories, and learn the history of their beloved homeland on Friday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. by Zoom. This event is presented on a love offering basis, and the Zoom link is on our Diversity Circle page under the groups section or in the Village News. Reverend Sunshine pointed us in this direction for tonight. Are you new to Science of Mind, or do you want a refresher? Dive into the transformative teachings of spiritual principles and practices. There are new class dates for this class, and they are Tuesdays starting October 3rd through October 31st. The class is on Zoom unless the class decides otherwise. It is from 6:30 to 9. Registration deadline is Tuesday, September 26th. Let Reverend Sunshine be your guide to enhance spiritual growth. Tuition is $180 before September 19th and $200 after that date. If you're thinking about it and cost is holding you back, contact Constance Chapman, constance@oaklandcsl.org, to discuss a tuition grant. Great news, sharing and leaning into the love of our center. The online auction raised $4,783.60 for Oakland Center. Way to go. For anyone who bid and won, please go to the site and pay for your item. Now, don't miss out on our final new member class happening tomorrow, Thursday, September 14th. There's still time to become a part of our community. Simply visit our website and head to the About Us section. Then click on the membership icon to fill out your application. We can't wait to welcome you. Also, our 2024 nonprofit partner applications are now open. Download the application from the nonprofit page on our website under About Us, or pick one up on Sunday at the check-in desk if you want to nominate someone for our 2024 nonprofit partner program. Get a look at love in action right here on the next slide. This is our contact team of people that are serving our community. We're so grateful for all of them. There's so much happening at the center: events, workshops, classes, and more. Please visit our website and sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News. Remember to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for special updates and contents you'll only find by liking and subscribing to the Oakland Center. Please like us and subscribe to Oakland Center today. And please visit the upcoming classes and workshop page on our website for more information about learning opportunities. And don't forget to visit the events page on our website to see more about our upcoming special events. So with a joyous heart, an open heart, like we did with the meditation, the many hearts that we saw in Reverend Sunshine's meditation at the beginning, please follow along as I read our giving affirmation. Hold whatever that gift is close to your portable temple for God, our heart. And know whatever it is you wish to share, lean into it with love. Follow along as I read. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies this offering. It blesses all that I am, all that I give, and all that I circulate. Thank you, love as me. If you're so inclined to donate tonight, use the donate icon on our website's homepage. If you would like to submit an offering, once there, you'll see the 5 ways to give via the donate icon: credit card, mail, Zelle, text, or you can join us on Sunday and put it in the offering basket. Quick thank you to everyone that participated tonight. Reverend Sunshine for speaking and doing the meditation, the prayers that Alice Knudsen delivered at the beginning, and the prayer that Constance will be doing in our closing in just a moment. Speaker for, again, is Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle. Want to shout out to our ministerial support all the way from Savannah, Georgia. Reverend Deb, thank you for being here. Thank you to Reverend Sally Bartholomew for being the alternate host. We share hosting throughout the month. We're so blessed with all of the spiritual talent, and we're blessed with Zoom talent, the Zoom team. Peter up in Portland doing our PowerPoint and leading things through. Spotlighting is Alice Herndon, muting with Alice Knudsen, and of course, all of our administration work by Constance Chapman to make this event possible tonight. So speaking of Constance, I believe you have an invitation from Reverend Sunshine, Madam, if I may, Constance, to do our closing prayer tonight.
Yes, thank you, Paul. So let's just take a breath. And just let that breath sink into your heart. Whether your heart is open and you've got hearts flowing out of it, or whether it's cracking open and you've got tears dripping down the side, or whether it's just sitting there wondering what everyone else is thinking of is doing. Just let that breath go right into your heart. Because what I know is that that breath is the breath of God. That is the breath of the one divine heart. That heart that encompasses and holds all hearts. That holds it with love, with the tenderness of a new parent holding a new child. That one divine love is the love that passes all understanding, that is here, there, and everywhere, that never leaves us, regardless of whether we turn away from it or not. It is there. And so I just want to say how very grateful I am for having had this time together in community with all these other beloved hearts, these beloved souls, for people who are willing to go deep, to look within, to just acknowledge what is there. And so I just know that as we leave tonight, we go about our days, we go about our evenings, and it is good and very good, because that one heart, that one divine mind, that one breath is always there, right where we are. And so please join me in saying, and so it is.
So it is. Amen.
So it is.
Ashe.
So it is.
Amen.
Blessed be.
Amen.